A family foundation is only as strong as the jurisdiction behind it. The same structure can work very differently depending on where it is established, how the law treats control, how banks view the jurisdiction, and how well it is connected with the family's assets. My name is Shiraz Waheed and I'm the co-founder at Liechtenstein Wealth. And in this video, I'm going to explain the top 12 jurisdictions to set up a family foundation, how each one is commonly used, where it fits, and what you should review before choosing the right structure for your family. Now, let us start with the first jurisdiction, that is the DIFC. Because for many of the UAE connected families, it is one of the most practical jurisdictions to consider. DIFC is often used for Dubai wealth structuring because it gives families access to common law financial center, as well as recognized codes and a professional ecosystem around private wealth, SPVs, wills, banking, and governance. A DIFC foundation can be useful when the family has connections to Dubai, UAE assets, regional business interest, or private banking relationships that already sit within the DIFC ecosystem. It allows assets to be held through a structured legal vehicle rather than remaining directly in personal name of the founder. The appeal of DIFC is not secrecy, the appeal is governance, legal clarity, and compatibility with other structures. A DIFC foundation can sit above holding companies, prescribed companies, investment accounts, or succession arrangements. For families with assets in the UAE and internationally, this can create clear control layer. The foundation's council, charter, guardian role, and reserve powers must be designed carefully. If the structure is created only as a registration exercise, it will not solve succession or control issues. The documents must explain who controls the structure, what happens if the founder dies or loses capacity, and how beneficiaries are treated. The next jurisdiction is ADGM, based in Abu Dhabi. For many families, ADGM is considered when the priority is wealth preservation, succession planning, and asset protection within flexible UAE common law framework. ADGM also operates under a common law framework, and its foundation regime has become well known among international families, founders, and investors who want a flexible succession structure within the UAE. An ADGM foundation can be used to hold shares in companies, investment assets, real estate, or other family wealth arrangements. It is a separate legal entity, which means that the foundation can continue beyond the life of the founder. This is one of the reasons families use it for continuity. For example, a founder may transfer shares of a holding company into an ADGM foundation. The foundation then owns the company, while the governance documents explain how decisions are made, who benefits from it, and how control passes over time. ADGM foundation can be especially useful where the family wants a UAE-based structure with strong legal recognition, but also wants flexibility around governance. As with DIFC, the structure must be coordinated with tax advice, banking requirements, and laws of the countries where assets and beneficiaries are located. Outside the UAE, Liechtenstein is one of the classic jurisdictions for European family foundations. For European families or families with strong European assets, Liechtenstein can be attractive because it has a long history in foundation law, private benefit foundations, philanthropy, and long-term family wealth preservation. A Liechtenstein foundation is often considered where the objective is long-term family governance. It can be used to separate ownership from personal control, support succession across generations, and provide a formal structure for family wealth or charitable purposes. It is chosen where families want a serious European foundation framework, proper administration, and long-term continuity. However, tax treatment must be reviewed carefully, especially where founders, beneficiaries, or assets are connected to other European countries. Panama is often associated with private interest foundations, especially for Latin American and international families that want a structure for family wealth holding, succession planning, and asset separation. A Panama private interest foundation can be useful where a family wants civil law style foundation structure that can hold assets and operate according to the foundation regulations. It is commonly considered by families who are already familiar with the foundation structure rather than trust structures. However, Panama must be reviewed carefully from a banking and perception perspective. Some banks and counterparties may ask more questions depending on the family's country of residence, source of funds, and the assets being held. The structure can still be legitimate, but documentation, compliance, and purpose must be strong. Next on the list is Bahamas. In Caribbean, the Bahamas is one of the jurisdictions families may review for foundation-based private wealth planning. It can be used for estate planning, family governance, and asset holding where the family prefers foundation format. The Bahamas may be relevant for families with international assets, private banking relationships, or advisors who already work with the Caribbean structures. It is usually more suitable where professional administration is available and where families want a structure to be maintained properly over time. As with any offshore structure, the planning must be supported by tax and legal advice in countries connected to the founder, beneficiaries, and assets. Next on the list is Guernsey, which is usually considered when professional administration is a major priority. It is often used by high net worth families, family offices, philanthropic structures, and more complex trust foundation arrangements. The strength of Guernsey is the professional administration environment. Many families choose Guernsey because they want experienced fiduciaries, trustees, council members, administrators, and advisors who understand international private wealth. A Guernsey foundation can be useful where the family wants a respected jurisdiction with strong governance standards. It may be used for family succession, charitable planning, asset holding, or structures that combine elements of trust and foundation planning. Guernsey is usually not selected for simple, low-cost structures. It is more appropriate where the family needs professional oversight, high-quality administration, and international credibility with banks and advisors. Now, close to Guernsey is another jurisdiction called Guernsey. Guernsey is also a respected fiduciary center. It is often reviewed for flexible private wealth, succession, purpose, and international family planning structures. A Guernsey foundation can be relevant where the family wants a foundation structure in a well-regarded offshore jurisdiction that is also supported by professional administration and mature legal environment. Guernsey may be considered where the family wants flexibility in how the foundation is governed, how beneficiaries are treated, and how specific purposes are documented. The choice between Guernsey and Guernsey often comes down to the advisor preferences, administration capability, asset location, banking relationships, and the specific legal design required. Now, next we have Cayman. Cayman is slightly different because the relevant vehicle is usually the foundation company. This is often used in sophisticated private wealth, commercial, holding, and governance structures. Unlike a traditional foundation in some civil law jurisdictions, the Cayman Foundation Company has a company-like format. This can make it useful where the structure needs to interact with commercial arrangements, fund structures, investment platforms, or digital asset projects. For private wealth, Cayman may be relevant where the family has complex investment holding needs, international entities, or needs for vehicle that is familiar to corporate service providers and professional advisors. Cayman should not be chosen only because it is well known. It must fit the purpose. If the objective is simply family succession for UAE assets, a UAE foundation may be more practical. If the objective involves funds, commercial structures, or sophisticated holding arrangements, Cayman may become more relevant. Now, another jurisdiction is Malta. Malta may be useful for European families who want a foundation framework within the EU member state. A Maltese foundation can be used for private wealth, family planning, philanthropy, or asset holding, depending on the structure and objectives. For families with a European connection, Malta may offer a familiar legal and regulatory environment. The important point with Malta is the tax review. Because it is an EU jurisdiction, the foundation must be assessed carefully in relation to the residence of the founder, beneficiaries, and the type of assets being held. The compliance requirements may also be different from offshore centers. Malta may be useful, but it should be selected because it matches the family's tax, legal, and banking position, and simply not because it is inside the EU. Now, another jurisdiction is Mauritius. Mauritius becomes relevant when investment structure has connection to Africa, India, or Asia. A Mauritius foundation may sit beside companies, investment holding vehicles, or cross-border planning structures. It can be considered where the family's wealth is connected to emerging markets, regional investments, or business interests that already use Mauritius in their planning. The benefit is that Mauritius has an established financial services ecosystem and can be useful for certain international structures. But the foundation must still be tested against tax rules, substance expectation, banking requirements, and the countries where the assets are located. For families with no connection to Africa, India, or Asia, Mauritius may not be the natural first choice. For families with real commercial or investment links to those regions, it can be worth reviewing. Now, Seychelles is often considered when the family is looking for a more cost-efficient foundation structure for simpler private wealth holding. The main attraction is usually cost and administrative simplicity. For some families, That may be suitable, especially where the structure is not expected to interact with major banks, complex assets, or high-value cross-border arrangements. But the cost should not be the only deciding factor. Banking access, substance, reputation, and counterparty perception must be reviewed carefully. A cheaper structure can become expensive if banks refuse to open accounts, ask for additional documentation, or treat that jurisdiction as high risk. Seychelles may have a place in certain planning situations, but for significant family wealth, the family should compare it against the credibility and administration quality of other jurisdictions. Now, the final jurisdiction on the list is Labuan. A Labuan foundation can be relevant where the family has connections to Malaysia or wider Asia, and where the foundation sits beside Labuan companies, insurance structures, or other wealth planning vehicles. It may be suitable for families who want an Asian offshore planning center rather than Middle Eastern, European, or Caribbean structure. The choice depends heavily on where the family lives, where the assets are located, and how banks and tax authorities will view this arrangement. Labuan should be reviewed in combination with Malaysian law, regional tax rules, and families' long-term succession objectives. Now, the best jurisdiction is not always the most famous one. It is the one that matches the family's asset, residency, tax position, banking relationship, and long-term control objectives. If the family is UAE connected, DIFC and ADGM are often the first jurisdiction to review because they are close to assets, advisors, courts, and banking relationships. If the family is European, Liechtenstein, Jersey, Guernsey, or Malta may be more relevant. If the family has Latin American, Caribbean, Asia, Africa, or commercial investment connections, Panama, Bahamas, Cayman, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Labuan may need to be considered. The structure must also be coordinated with wills, SPVs, company ownerships, and tax advice. A foundation does not automatically solve every succession and asset protection issue. The result depends on the timing, intent, and how structures interact with law of each relevant country. For asset protection especially, timing is very important. A foundation created after a claim has already started may not provide the same protection as a structure created early for genuine planning reasons. When it comes to taxation, the domicile, residency, asset location, and beneficiary positions all matter. For succession planning, the focus should be on control, continuity, and avoiding unnecessary delay. A properly designed foundation can be a powerful part of a wider family wealth structure, but it should be selected as part of a coordinated plan, not as isolated entity. So if you are considering a family foundation and want to understand whether DIFC, ADGM, or another jurisdiction is the right fit for your assets, succession, and banking requirement, you can request a personalized asset protection plan by clicking the link in the description below. That's it for today, and I will see you in the next video.